So this is my first video I'm doing on my Sprinter mobile office that I use in my real estate business. I've built this a long time ago and before I ever started recording any YouTube videos, and it's got to the point now where I'm gonna go back in and kind of do a remodel and make some changes, but I'm making this video as an overview of what I ordered, my thoughts on changes I'm going to make, would have made, may not make now, and just general ramblings about my thoughts about life and work in general. Anyway, so starting with what we've got here, this is a 2012 Mercedes Sprinter van. It's a 170-inch wheelbase. It's a 3500, which means it has dual wheels on the back. Basically what my thought process was there is, there's two reasons I went with a 3500. One, I drove them back to back, drove a 2500, drove a 3500. 3500 handles way better. You've got, with the extra wheels in the back, it's just a lot more stable. I actually ordered this one with the heaviest sway bar kit that you can buy. I think it was called a PS3 or something, but basically it was made for if you're carrying heavy loads high up in the body, that it wouldn't go side to side a lot on you. So I bought it for the handling. Other part was I bought it to kind of head myself off that if I bought a 2500 I was going to end up doing something silly as far as putting wheels on it, and there weren't really many good wheel options back then. Haven't researched it whether that has changed, but I kind of wanted to stop myself from even having that thought. And so I think maybe it was $1,000 to go from a 2500 to a 3500. So I went to the 3500. You also get the increased towing capacity. So this one is rated at 7,500 pounds, I believe. This is not an extended. If you go to an extended, it goes back down to the 5,000 that I believe the 2500s are rated at. One of the other drivetrain sort of options I got on this is I ordered it with the taller 392, I believe, gears in the back, which is what comes standard on a 2500. I do care, and I had to make another change that we'll talk about later, but I really wanted the lower RPM. Unfortunately, well, whatever it is, I have a heavy foot, and so if I'm running this thing down the road at 80, 90, 100, having that engine RPM down is way worth it more to me than acceleration off the line. I do tow with this, so it probably would have been better it's better definitely in some situations to have that 410, but in general for me, I think it was a 410, it may be a 412, I don't know. Anyway, don't quote me on any of that, but either way, I have the taller ratio. So it brings my engine RPM down, so I can cruise at a higher RPM with, a higher speed with lower RPM. But that kind of hurt my towing. So I have this truck, and then I don't think I've ever posted it, but I have a 7 by 16 foot enclosed trailer with a 7.5, it's around 7.5 foot interior height. So it's actually a little bit taller. It's like 3 or 4 inches taller than this truck. So it's basically the same size as this truck, a little bit taller, hanging off the back. So you get that thing in there, get it loaded down, trying to go up a hill, on the highway, with several thousand pounds in the back, and this truck, as it sits, rides probably, my guess is somewhere in the 9,000 to 9,500 pound range with everything it has in it. It was a struggle getting up hills on the highway. By the time you get to the top, you're going 45 and a 65. So solution to that is not to get rid of weight, not to stop pulling things, it's to get an ECU tune on this. So I have a Renntech ECU tune on this truck. It supposedly adds, I think it's 80 horsepower and almost, about the same, torque-wise, which are big numbers for, I think these are maybe just about 200 horse stock. They have a fair bit of torque because it's a 3-liter turbo diesel, but having that Renntech tune on there, I didn't get anything in terms of mileage. I know people talk about sometimes they get better mileage with ECU tunes. I didn't see it. If anything, maybe it went down a little bit. But I do kind of drive a little bit aggressive. So got the ECU tune on there, and now it can tow. I tow very close to the max gross combined vehicle weight, somewhat often. I don't do it on a daily basis, but I've got so much stuff in that enclosed trailer that I just keep in there that basically whenever I hitch it up to move it, it's, you know, it's probably 4,500 pounds, something like that. So combined with this, we're pretty close. I think these are rated about 15, 16,000 combined. Again, don't quote me on that. Go check it out for yourself. But everything works great. You know, as far as towing, it's amazing with the long wheelbase of this thing. It tows really nicely, and because it's tall, you know, you're not trying to push all that air from that trailer. Obviously my other dually doesn't. I have a dually Dodge Ram with a Cummins, and it doesn't care about pulling that trailer, but a smaller vehicle would care about having all that wind resistance on the front of a tall trailer like that. I had a buddy that borrowed it that destroyed a transmission on a GMC pulling that thing, I guess. But anyway, so it tows really nicely. I love the way it goes down the road, and you can take everything with you. So what did I ordered this truck, like I said before. I ordered this truck. It takes about, who knows, this may have changed, but it takes like 6 months. When you order one, they build them in Germany, they have to take them apart because of import tariffs, and then they put them back together in North or South Carolina, and then you get them. So this is a cargo van, and essentially there's a million options on these things. As you would imagine, there's so many different specifications that you can build. I ordered this as a raw shell, so in the back, I even had the floor deleted, so it didn't have the load floor, it didn't have anything. The only thing I had put in the back is I've got windows all the way around. So it was a black box with just windows all the way around it. I've got, there's like an extra door handle I got here. And then the other options I've got, it has a variable high idle, which basically means that when I have it in park, I have a button I can flip on as long as the parking brake is on and it's in park, where I can adjust the idle speed on the motor. This is an emissions controlled diesel. There's a lot of talk, and nobody will give you a straight answer about what RPM you need to run these things at if you're going to run them for an extended period of time, and while they're not moving, basically for the exhaust gas, I'm losing the words. So it's got AdBlue on it, and it has to do a burn off in the catalytic system for that every once in a while. So you got to be able to generate enough. My understanding of it is you got to be able to generate enough exhaust temperature in order to complete that burn off, or, you know, just in general, you need the heat in the system in order for the emissions system not to get clogged up, you know, EGR and all that kind of stuff. So basically, I can set that, and I can sit there and adjust it from, you know, 1,000, 1,200, you know, 1,500, whatever, and it'll just sit there and run at that, and it's electronically controlled. So if you had some kind of weird setup where you're putting more of a load on the engine, it would compensate. The other options I've got, the Xenon headlights. They're by Xenon, high beam, low beam on this thing. They're amazing. I mean, I've had them on other cars, but supposedly on these, the headlights are horrible, the factory ones, and I can't deal with that. So I've got the by Xenon headlights. To get heated seats on this, I ended up, they only came in a package at the time, so I've got heated seats, and it came with a heated windshield, which I have absolutely no use for here in Atlanta. It's actually a little bit of annoyance. You get used to it. It's got little wires in it, but basically there's a big grid heater in the windshield because these things are big, and they get parked outside, I guess, up north, and so you need to be able to defrost the entire front windshield. I hear the thing takes a ton of power. I've never actually used it. So I've got that. What other factory options does this have? I think that's about it in terms of factory options. Deleted floor. Yeah, it does. I think that pretty much covers it. So once I got it, I talked about the wheels a little bit. All I did was I added these stainless steel covers to the front back. I think they were like 200 bucks, so that solved my $3,000–4,000 wheel problem for a few $100s, and I like the way the dualies look. A lot of people go Alcoas on these. A lot of the RVs have got Alcoas on them, where you've got the steel wheel on the inside and Alcoa on the outside. I don't like the way they look. I mean, to me, the fronts don't look as aggressive. It may just be me, but I like the way these stick out a little more, and so they're a little more of an aggressive look than the Alcoas. I'm fine with the Alcoas in the back. The other issue with the Alcoas, to me, is that you can't rotate that inside back tire unless you have 6 of them. You can't rotate that back inside tire to the outside, you know, so it kind of screws up your being able to rotate these things around. Which brings me to a thing I chased down. Well, so with the Renntech, these things are normally limited to 83 and a half miles an hour, which is not really good enough for Atlanta traffic. But the problem is that this thing, you know, is kind of, it didn't go down the road perfectly from when I got it. A lot of that changed. I went to the Michelin, what are these? These are the Michelin LTX MS squared tires, and they are phenomenal. I think this originally came with Kumos on it, I believe. I went to these probably at 60,000 miles and made a huge difference. The other thing that if you've got one of these things, you have got to get it if it's got a static load where either, if you bought it as a camper, it's probably already been done. But if you buy something and you build a conversion like what I've got, especially where you've got a fair amount of weight, like I've got 600-700 pounds worth of batteries in this thing, as the back comes down, and I assume the 2500s may be worse on this because I should maybe have a similar front end, but as you increase the weight on it, the alignment just goes out of whack. So you really need to have one of these things aligned. I went and had mine aligned, and that made a huge amount of difference. I had it aligned after I put those Michelins on because I was just scrubbing the fronts off like crazy. Part of it is I drive a lot of surface streets and I'm pushing this thing through corners, and you know, it's a big vehicle. So you're gonna get a little bit of that, but in terms of tire wear, it's made a phenomenal difference. It goes down the road. I used to have a little bit of a shake in that 65 to low 70s range, which is kind of right where you are a lot of the time. You'd have a little bit of a shake in the steering wheel, and it got rid of all that. I've had everything. I do, when I rotate the tires, I get them rebalanced. I tried balance beads in the Kumos, and that was better, but it wasn't really a solution. And when I put the Michelins on, they didn't put the balance beads in, and the Michelins balanced up so much better, or they were more round or whatever. But I didn't even look at the balance beads at that point because they rode better stock than the original tires with the balance beads in them. You know, part of that is things wear out, but so it's hard to make a comparison between old tires and brand new tires. But either way, so fix the alignment. Be sure, you know, it's a very important thing. If you got a wobble going down the road, make sure you got the alignment on this thing dialed in. So this is built as a mobile office for my real estate business. So I had vinyl graphics, everything on the outside. I've just, in the last few weeks, taken all this stuff off. They're changing. I work with Remax, and we're doing a redesign on the main Remax balloon logo. So all that stuff had to come off anyway. This truck, even though I've got a garage that it'll fit in, that I've spent all this time building, it's full of stuff. You've seen it in my other videos. And I can't get in there. So it sits out here in the sun, and this side gets baked. So the vinyl graphics on here, it's been, you know, 5.5, 6 years. That stuff's been on there. So that had to all come off. You can see I've been working on, I got all the graphics off. I use the tool on my drill. I'll do another video about that, but the paint was just ruined on this thing from sitting outside, and it's so tall you don't wash it often enough, any of that kind of thing. And being black, it's even tougher. So I'm going through the process of doing a full paint correction, or however you want to call it. Going through with a clay bar, not a clay bar, but it's a 6-inch clay disc. It's a 3M deal that goes on a 6-inch random orbital buffer. So doing that, and then going through multiple stages of taking off the paint oxidation, getting everything smoothed out and buffed out. So I've done a little bit of work. This is like one stage of that. I've got, it's clay barred, and it's got the heaviest, most aggressive buff on it just to get the oxidation crap layer off. But you can see up here where you can see the old website stuff, and I've still got a little bit left from a vinyl. That wheel basically, it's like an eraser, and as it comes across, it just kind of pulls the vinyl off in pieces, so it does kind of leave a little bit of it. But I got to get all this buffed out. This thing used to be, you could hardly tell it had windows, it was so black. Next thing I'm going to do, I almost ordered one that had all this plastic all the way around the belt line. You can order it, I assume you still can, where it's paintable. The problem is that they ship white. So until I got it painted, this thing was always going to be black with a big white stripe on it. And I'm realistic about my own, I don't know, procrastination, I guess would be the best word. So I didn't go down that road. I think it was like $1,000. But either way, now I've got a professional place that's going to paint everything now, smooth it out, paint it. So I'm going to get all the bumpers, all the side trim, everything that's gray, painted gloss black, smooth, so it's all going to match. I think that's going to be a great look and do a lot for it. The other things I've done on the outside, the windows, I did order them. I don't remember if it was a separate option, but these windows were tinted from the factory. In fact, you can see the back one is the original standard tint. So that's just got one layer on it. Everything else has got a 10%. So this window, backs. The fronts are, I don't remember what the police officer told me, the last one. I think he said they were 15, maybe they measured 14. This thing has a huge front windshield on it, and it's a big black box, and we live in Atlanta, so I'm trying to keep as much heat out as possible. So I've got a ceramic heat control window tint on the front windshield. The entire thing is tinted. It's a 70%, so you don't really even notice it. The big problem with one thing is, I never put a backup camera on this. I've got all this insane stuff that you're going to see inside, but this thing doesn't have a backup camera, which normally doesn't matter. But if you're in the dark, I've got these windows tinted so dark that you can't see the mirror because this window doesn't roll down, just this one. So one of those things that I figured out later that it's not a big deal. Normally I'm cognizant enough of things around me that I know where I'm backing in. When I come in here, I can actually kick the light on the garage and my home automation. So, because the backup lights aren't really bright enough to always tell where you're going when you're looking in that mirror. But I am gonna put cameras on this thing. I just never did it. It was, it's just one of those things. But it'd be great for hitching up trailers, and that's just it's just too much of an annoyance not to do it. So I'm gonna put a camera high up on the back, facing back, a camera pointing down on the back to the trailer hitch. I think I'm gonna put one in the front, because now that that front bumper is gonna be painted, when you park one of these things, you really, most of the time you're using the curb, so you're up over the curb with the front end, which is why I didn't really want to go to an aftermarket lower bumper while I'm having this stuff painted, because with the length, I drive this thing around the city all the time, and you really need to be able to pull into a parking spot and pull over that curb. So I'm going to have some kind of camera arrangement on the front where I can see the front bumper. And then I'll probably, because typically it's a 4-camera setup, I'm probably going to put one on the roof actually, so that you can see when you're coming onto something, kind of see where it is in relation to the top of the truck. So you're not hitting your air conditioner, satellite dish, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll just replace the rear view mirror on this thing. The weird setup, I've got windows in the back. You'll see on the inside I actually can't see anything out of the back, so the rear view mirror is useless. I have windows, but I've got blinds on the inside. But because of the 2 doors in the middle, you've got a center pillar that you can't, it really blocks out everything that you can see. Well, so everything you can see in the side mirrors, you can see in the rear view mirror basically, because the blind spot created in the center by those 2 doors, that blocks the same, really the same area as the angle between the side mirror and the side of the truck. So you can't, unless somebody's right up against the door standing in the back window, then you could see it in the rearview mirror and not see it in here. But in normal driving, you can see everything in the side mirrors. You can, I mean, you can see all the way down the sides of this. Some people put, you know, side cameras on, so you have like a 360 thing. The mirrors on this thing are phenomenal. I love driving this truck in traffic. It's the, you know, it's the greatest thing, because I mean, we're in 7, 8, 9 lanes of traffic, and you sit way up and you can see everything. The mirrors are huge, so you can see, you know, you can get in and out of places. If you got good awareness of what you're doing, you know, you can see miles down the road, so you can tell which lane you need to be in, and it's great. I'd rather be driving this in traffic than driving any of our other cars. So just big plus there on the for having a Sprinter van in terms of driving around in traffic. Yeah, the acceleration isn't that great. Mainly it's a turbo lag thing, and so as long as you kind of, but you can sort of, I like to say you can kind of see into the future with this thing. If you really watch what people do, you can tell, hey, well, this guy's getting ready to pull out, but you can see 3 cars ahead when things are going to start moving, so the car in front of you doesn't really know even what they're going to be doing, but you know before, so you can it kind of backfires if they don't do what you think they're going to do, but you can kind of outrun that little bit of turbo lag. It's more of a, hey, cross the intersections kind of thing. But this thing will get up and go, especially with that Renntech on it. For something that weighs, you know, like I said, it's just short of going by. I've taken this with the dump trailer to the dump once or twice and run across those scales, and from what I know what the dump trailer weighs empty combined weight, I think it's somewhere in that 9,000, 9,500 pound range, which sort of makes sense for what's inside in terms of steel and wood and batteries and everything else. So starting with some of the systems that we've got on this, you can see on the outside, I've got in the back, the very back is a automatic fan. It's a Maxxfan, I believe, deluxe fan. So it's on a thermostat where it'll open and close based on what the temperature is inside the truck. It doesn't have any way to sense outside, but it does have a remote where I can control it from the front. But since I've got it placed in the very back, I can just crack a window on the front, and even when it sits out here in the sun, it just sucks air through, and it's just kind of always going. I mean, that fan's probably been running for 5, 6 years. Other than in the winter, it just closes. The other nice thing is that the way it's constructed, you can drive down the road with it open, so it doesn't have any issue there. I have replaced a few parts on it. It's had a new gearbox for the mechanism that goes up and down about 3 times, but I think they've always been under warranty. And but it's just a great product. I would never buy a different fan than that one. You can drive it with it open in the rain. It's all shrouded there, but basically it'll close, and it'll close back down smooth to, well, not smooth to the roof, but very close. And like I said, it's fine up and down. I've had it open, like I said, 90, 100 miles an hour. It doesn't have any issue. It is partially blocked by the air conditioner, so that sort of helps probably at that speed. I've got that's a Coleman Mach 3 PS, which I believe is it's a power saving version. I want to say it's either 1350 BTU or 1550, something like that. It's in that range. I think it's the 1550, because I had a smaller one and it was a lower profile and I didn't like it. I ended up selling that one and replacing it with this one. The other one was about 5 inches shorter than this, which I really liked, but after I got the satellite dish, proportionally it wasn't really an issue, so I just went ahead and got a taller one. But it's great. I used to be able to run it, I can run it now plugged in or off the generator. I used to be able to run it off the batteries. The batteries in this thing are kind of gassed at this point. I can run it definitely with the engine running, but we'll get to all the electronics and everything on that either in this video, depending on how long this gets, or in another video we'll go over the interior. In front of that, I've got a Winegard Road, what's it called? Road Trip. It's a Winegard Road Trip in motion satellite receiver. So I use Dish Network in this truck. It's just an add-on account to my house, so I think it's $5, and then I do have a DVR in here because why not? And I think that's another $2. So this gives me in-motion satellite anywhere that I've got a clear view of the sky, and I've got an app on my phone. I think you actually have to pay for that. I think it was like 20 bucks, but basically just hold your phone up to the sky, you can see where the satellites are, and then if I'm parking somewhere and I'm going to be there for a while and there's trees, I can do that and then kind of figure out where I need to be. And then in front of that, I've got there's 3 little nubs that you may be able to see towards the front of the truck. It has, they're not really in use right now, but they're cellular phone antennas. You see them for, on the back of police cars, they have radio and cellular phone ones, and that's what those are. I think they're Laird, maybe, it's like L-A-R-D, something like that. Those were installed for, I've got a Wilson phone cradle hooked to a repeater. Not really a great product. I never really saw a big gain on it. I use T-Mobile, so I was going to spend a little money on hardware to maybe give myself some more range, but either way. And then the other one was for a direct connect to my MiFi device. I've since changed MiFi devices, and the new one doesn't have an antenna input, so that one's unused. The third one is actually a Wi-Fi antenna, now that I think about it. I have a Wi-Fi Ranger, which is a device. They don't make it in the form that I have anymore. I actually recently looked into it again. It's essentially it's a self-contained router, but it's got multiple sort of failover. So you could, for certain setups, it would have a USB LTE stick that would go into it, or that it would say, oh well, if everything else fails, we'll go to cellular. And if cellular works, if we have something that's better than cellular, then we'll go to that. So if it finds a Wi-Fi signal, then it'll go out and connect to the Wi-Fi. Like right now, it's connected to my Wi-Fi network here on the property. And when I pull in, it automatically goes to that. What's happened now is that, this happened originally, is that none of my USB Wi-Fi things would ever communicate with it. So I basically just have Wi-Fi networks set up in a level of preference. So if I'm not on my home network or one of the networks at one of my offices or something like that, then it automatically goes back to the MiFi device that's in there, its Wi-Fi network. It also has a hardline connection that sort of works. The reason that I say sort of works, it's nothing to do with the Wi-Fi Ranger, but I have a power over Ethernet. Okay, so the camera shut off during the middle of that. I guess I hit the 30-minute limit. So this is going to be more than one video as far as overview based on how long I've been rambling about different things. But I feel like at this point, recording it, that it's been decent content. So we'll do a separate video. Obviously, I'll do a separate video of the interior, and that'll probably be just as long or longer. But so I was talking about the Wi-Fi Ranger. So basically, it's just a box that goes automatic failover. So wherever I'm at, it'll get me the cheapest, fastest Ethernet I can. So if I don't have any other options, I can go cellular with my MiFi device. Well, it's actually a Wi-Fi. So it picks that network as the one it likes the least, and then if it has the house, it likes that one. Or I'm actually thinking about getting a second MiFi card where I would have a Verizon one also, and then just because I need more data anyway, so I could have better coverage. So then if the T-Mobile one failed, then the next level down would be the Verizon one. So that would be nice. So finishing up what's on the roof of this truck, I don't think you can see it from here, but I actually had a silly idea. There's a place, a road right here by my house I drive down all the time, where you come over a hill and there's a police car sitting in the shade underneath an overpass. So I thought, well, it'd be a neat idea to put a built-in radar detector, but put it on the roof. So when I come over the hill, it would see before anything else. Obviously, it doesn't work for a laser because I don't even think you could protect this thing from laser. But so I've got on the top, on the front, I've got a radar module for an escort system, and then a few little GPS antennas that are on there for stuff that we're not using right now. But we'll get to that. As far as I've got, what do we have in the next video? Interior things to talk about. This thing has probably one of the crazier interiors that I mean, I was really into Sprinters back when I built this thing many years ago, and I hadn't seen anything like it. I've got a 4-monitor workstation, 60-inch television. It's got a 22-inch touchscreen in the dash for navigation with a bunch of stuff rerouted. We've got a laser printer, you know, all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in a separate video since this is getting pretty darn long. We'll see you then.